Welcome in to the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsey Smith, here with Espo and Gerald. You guys doing okay? Just a quick check-in, make sure everyone's sanity and mentals are good right now.
I'm high on life right now. This is what I live for.
My brain is mush. Don't ask me anything.
Gerald's a little hurt.
Math is a hell of a drug, Gerald.
It really is.
Bless Gerald's heart. He's going to be so exhausted after this is all said and done, after crunching all these numbers.
It's all right. You're just going to Vegas right after we're done.
No, that's fine. Just melt my mind even more. It's totally cool.
Don't worry. We'll just get you a boatload of Four Peaks. We'll pack it up, take it out to Vegas with us. You could just chill out, have some fun. Welcome in, everybody. We're happy to see you again this Friday afternoon. Let's get into some updates and the chatter around the NBA and more specifically Kevin Durant on the Phoenix Suns. So a couple tweets for you guys. First and foremost, this tweet from Flex from Jersey. He said the Suns will do everything possible to keep Mikal Bridges. Can confirm from a trusted source there is a strong possibility that this could get done while keeping young Scotty, aka Mikal Bridges, with big three of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and CP3. Again, no guarantees, but very possible.
I heard a similar thing from somebody I was talking to as well. So fingers crossed. This could wind up turning out to be much, much better than any Suns fan expected. Not to get hopes up, but this sounds like, that there's a real possibility of keeping Mikal where we stand right now, which is everybody's dream, it feels like.
Yeah, if you can do that deal and keep Mikal, James Jones should be a shoo-in for Executive of the Year again, because that's just unfair. And I think a lot of it will stem from having to loop in a third team because, like we talked about yesterday, maybe the Nets don't want DA and you got to fill that salary somehow. But it is looking like it's going to be a ton of picks. And if they can get away with that while keeping Mikal, you do that 11 times out of 10.
Oh, I'm building James Jones' statue if that gets done.
Yeah, we'll put a little shrine on the wall back here.
You know what? We will induct him as the first member of the PHNX Ring of Honor. We will put it up there. It'll live there forever. That's what'll happen if he pulls this off like that.
All right, so let's kind of get into an idea of what we're hearing as far as what the Nets would like to receive from Phoenix. So John Gambadoro tweeted out, any Phoenix trade for Kevin Durant would very likely center around the maximum 4 first-round picks allowed and the Nets' ability to swap picks with the Suns in several other years. And then Trevor Lane tweeted out that Windhorse is saying the Nets are telling teams they're looking for a young star player and 3 first-round picks in a deal for Durant. Do you think the 3 first-round picks is enough, or do you think it's going to have to probably be the max amount that they can give?
I think if you're not including Mikal in the deal and the Nets have no interest in DA, it's going to have to be 4 and probably 1 or 2 pick swaps on top of that. There's just no way you can account for not including Mikal, for the Nets not liking DA. And like, I love Cam Johnson, but as the centerpiece for a Kevin Durant deal, you have to throw all the picks in your bag. And I think the Suns will, based on what we know about how they approach the draft and the fact that it's Kevin freaking Durant. Like, you do that if you can.
If you bring the third team, there can be more first-round picks, though, right?
You can.
You're not capped at those 4.
Yeah, they would have to come from that third team, but yes, the Nets could get
8 would be the max you could get from if you have a 3-team deal.
Yes, the third team won't throw probably more than 1, maybe 2 picks, depending on what they're getting back in, because they're not going to help the Suns become a powerhouse, especially if they're in the West. And we'll talk about a potential team that could fit that bill, but. Yeah, you could potentially, if you're the Nets, get like 5 first-round picks and 2 to 3 pick swaps reasonably in this type of deal.
So I actually have a source on the inside at the Suns, and I got a peek at what their draft board looks like for the next 7 years.
Okay.
If we can take a look at it here, it's Kevin Durant and F them kids. That is what's on the draft board for the next 7 seasons there. You deal all the picks, all right? That's what James Jones is going to do. It does not matter. And can I get the 2 shot here and address the crowd? I get that people are saying that the Nets want a young star. Everybody wants a young star, right? Mm-hmm. But anybody putting Devin Booker in that is lying to you and doing it just for clicks or to keep your attention on whatever you're watching. It is literally, and I don't use that in the way a lot of people use literally, I mean literally impossible. Not just because logically it doesn't make sense, but because they cannot trade him for a year because he just signed the Supermax. So shut the hell up about Devin Booker being involved.
Yeah. Also, it is good to note that, though, and keep it in mind, because we are hearing people still bring this up in conversation, and we're talking about legitimate inside source type people who are bringing this up. You just have to pay attention to specifically how they tee it up. Is it a hypothetical? Is it in a dream situation? If anything were legal, which team or which player do you think the Nets would want to trade with, right? Mm-hmm. So just keep an eye out for those small little details that let you know that this is more of a dream kind of scenario instead of a reality.
Hello in the chat said, does Espo still believe Cam Johnson has a higher ceiling than the second place Defensive Player of the Year, Mikal? If you remember correctly, and I know listening is difficult, but I said offensively he has a higher ceiling than Mikal, and I still stand by that.
Okay, so what do we want to talk about next? Because my head is still swimming.
Yeah, well, just take a break, Gerald, and just
breathe.
Just breathe.
I'm sorry, I started looking at numbers again real quick.
Gerald has been crunching the numbers since he got into this building. So while you take a break, I found out that Espo was at least digging around in the OG's stash that we have in the office earlier today. I just want to tell you guys, OG's just launched their first ever limited edition seasonal flavor, Pina Colada, a perfect pineapple and creamy coconut blend. But, you know, one of the fun things about like OG's and scratch-made THC gummies is sometimes it gets your brain working a little bit too much occasionally. Sometimes it helps shut your brain down, but sometimes, in Espo's case, it gets it going a little bit too far.
Put on the tinfoil hat with me. Join me in the conspiracy corner. I'm not in my usual corner, but it still works. So Kevin Durant, we briefly touched on this yesterday, but I love this. This is what I think is really going on in Kevin Durant's mind, right? One of our favorite sons of all time, Charles Barkley on TNT, said he hasn't driven the bus to a championship. Mm-hmm. He gets on him. What would be the greatest revenge for Kevin Durant? To come to Phoenix, the city that Charles Barkley's most beloved in and couldn't win a title in, and win one and give Chuck the middle finger in the process. This is one of my favorite conspiracy theories about this entire thing, and I'd love to believe that it is the really driving force why KD asked for a trade, and we heard that criticism of him after the Warriors stuff has played a part in this. So drop that OGs in and think about it. It really could be part of what's going on here.
Is that tinfoil hat waterproof? Because I'm about to rain on your parade.
You can try to rain on it, but no.
I actually kind of agree with you. I don't think that's the chief reason, but I think that's part of it because KD knows what people say about him as far as the team that he joined and the reason he got his 2 titles. And I think watching Steph Curry win one this year without him probably drives him as well a little bit. But you know that they're just going to say that, oh, he just joined a 64-win team. and that's what helped him win it.
Who the hell cares?
I'm just saying.
Literally, we should buy him a PHNX bus that he can drive in the championship parade. I'm all right with that. My other one. Yeah, you want to dive even deeper?
We have another one.
I do.
Okay.
I hit the OGs hard last night. And I made this tinfoil hat like 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So it's fun. It was like a craft project while I'm here in Conspiracy Corner. What about, did the Suns and DA always have this cooked up where they knew what was playing and that they said to DA, we'll get you to your best situation, even if it's still here, if you help us get Kevin Durant as part of the process.
Okay. And
now we're hearing that the Utah Jazz might be interested in him.
Sorry, you said best situation and then Utah.
Well, you know, that money-wise, it may be the best, right?
Okay.
He's not talking about the best basketball situation is Phoenix. He's not thinking basketball. He's thinking, how do I get them Benjamins?
Right.
And Utah might be how to get them Benjamins, right?
It's true.
So maybe James Jones and DA were always in cahoots. Maybe. No?
Maybe. I feel like I can believe the first one more than that one, to be completely honest with you. We're just saying a lot.
What about the third one?
Oh, God.
A popular one.
Oh, man.
Steve Nash.
Oh, boy.
Yet again.
Uh-huh.
I like this one the best.
A double agent for the Suns.
I like this one the best.
July 4th, 2012. He gets dealt to the Lakers, right? Mm-hmm. The famous...
Gerald got broken up with his girlfriend for working that day.
Well, then she didn't deserve you anyways, Gerald. Join me in the tinfoil hat.
Not even a joke.
We're gonna have to circle back to this at a later date.
You threw me off.
We're gonna have to circle back to
Steve
this
Nash
at a later date.
gets dealt to the Lakers, right? And
God.
This is gonna be fun Sports Illustrated cover.
Yes.
And he took him down from the inside for the Suns, right? What if he's there as a plant for the Suns again in Brooklyn to take down the Nets so KD could get here?
He's playing the long game
here. Yeah.
That'd
How
be
about that?
True hero.
Steve Nash, the greatest son ever. All right, that's all I got.
Listen, if you want to join Espo on the tinfoil hat train, or just try and forget all of what he just said to you, whichever one you'd prefer, check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. All right, so we brought up Utah, so let's get into it. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, the Utah Jazz traded away Rudy Gobert and got to Minnesota Timberwolves, and they got back Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 Minnesota first-round picks. That's kind of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Are you surprised at how much they were able to get there?
I am a little bit, and I think we've been talking and we feel like if you're not going to include Mikal and if the Nets don't want DA, you're going to have to go heavy on the picks. This deal pretty much just sealed that fate. If there was any room for question about, the Suns trying to go with a Mikal deal or something, you're going to have to include picks, a lot of picks, because Rudy Gobert is a good player, but he's not a Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. So if they got 4 picks and a pick swap for him, granted, they were only getting a lot of role players in return, but you're going to have to give that up for Kevin Durant. So that kind of sets the market, which is okay, because as we've been talking about, if the Suns can get away with a draft-heavy package for KD, you do that every single time.
Yeah, and it feels like that's actually what the Suns were hoping a market would be set at. And it also paves the way now for a potential DA landing spot, because everybody said Gobert was the domino. People liked DA, but they wanted Gobert more, right?
They valued him more.
They valued him more.
DA, yeah.
So now that hurdle's gone, right? Minnesota takes him. Now there's rumors Utah is interested in DA. This could be a great thing by setting that, also somewhat setting the value for DA as well in any trade. So this could work out very, very well for the Suns. And it kind of ties into Brian Windhorst's weird 2-minute dog and pony show.
That was the greatest moment of free agency by
really
far.
was.
But he was insinuating that the Nets and Suns had to watch Utah, right?
Right.
And I kind of was he even suggesting that they could be the third team in this as well? that domino has fallen now.
So, yeah, let's take a look at this. So, John Gambadoro tweeted out, the Utah Jazz have interest in exploring a trade for Suns restricted free agent DeAndre Ayton. Would have to be a sign-and trade since they do not have cap space. And then Kevin O'Connor quote tweeted Gambo's tweet and said, this is true. I'll add that the Jazz, Wolves, Suns had discussed three-way deal structures. First heard that pre-draft in June when I reported on the mismatch that Minnesota had interest in Gobert. Lots of moving pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a rumor that there may be some talks about DA and Crowder in some kind of sign and trade for Clarkson, which would fill one of your bench scoring needs there, but I don't know what it means for a Nets KD trade unless there's some draft capital potentially involved.
Yeah, the math there doesn't check out if it's just Jazz and Suns making that deal, because the Jazz would be taking on about, what is that, 41 million in salary, and Clarkson's only like 14 mil, something like that. So there'd have to be another piece involved with that to make the math work. But fortunately, I was able to come up with a 3-team trade that works, that gets KD to Phoenix, that gets DA to Utah.
Buckle up, everybody.
I'm tingling, Gerald.
Yeah. So we don't have a graphic for this because some of the pieces involved are not registered as Utah Jazz players yet because they just got shipped there from Minnesota.
What you're saying is it's kind of a clusterfuck on the trade.
Yes, this is there's a lot of moving pieces, so I'm hoping I got all the math right, but I think I did. So the Suns would get Kevin Durant from Brooklyn and Rudy Gay from Utah. The Nets would get Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, Landry Shamet, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, plus 4 picks from the Suns, first rounders, additional pick swaps from the Suns, and 1 first-round pick from Utah since they just got a boatload from the Minnesota deal. The Jazz would get DeAndre Ayton. So the math checks out for all 3 teams. The Suns would be taking on about $8 million extra in salary with that. The Jazz would be taking about $4 million, and the Nets would be taking about $3 million. The Jazz would be hard capped because they're getting DA in the sign and trade. But if you factor in their additions and subtractions over the last couple hours, they're still below that 157 million hard cap. So that trade does work. The Nets are getting 5 picks plus like 1 or 2 pick swaps. The Jazz are getting DA for basically the cost of Beasley, Vanderbilt, and a first rounder. And the Suns are getting Kevin Durant without having to include Mikal Bridges, at which point they would then have to go out and find a center on the market, which is a tough challenge, but you make this deal if you can make this deal.
Now the Nets have 42 people in the roster, though, right?
They do.
They do. Lots of cuts coming in Brooklyn. So.
Yes, but they also do. Jay Crowder would be an expiring, so you can flip him. Malik Beasley is an attractive young player. So is Jared Vanderbilt. You'd probably want to keep them with Cam Johnson. Landry Shamet, maybe you reroute him somewhere, see what you can get out of him. So yeah, they are getting
want him back here.
They're getting 5 players in that deal and giving up Kevin Durant. Maybe they can throw in a Day'Ron Sharpe or something like that. He's a first-round pick who hasn't really done much, and he has like $2 million in salary. So you could still make the math work there and, free up a much-needed roster spot. But that's kind of one deal. And I did want to address this question because it came up in the chat a couple times about Donovan Mitchell. Woj reported that the Jazz, with all these picks that they're armed with, are trying to rebuild around Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And if they are interested in DA, I don't see that being a guy that you reroute. And you can't reroute him to Brooklyn anyway for the same reason we talked about with Devin Booker. He's on that 5-year designated rookie max extension. So they would have to get rid of Ben Simmons to make room for Donovan Mitchell. And I just, if you're the Jazz and you're getting DA, why would you trade Donovan Mitchell?
No, and Woj saying that they want to build around him seems legit. Makes a lot of sense because the talk was always they had to pick between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And if you're getting DA, it's hey, we can run a similar system to what we were running with a more adept offensive big. Mm-hmm. It would make sense that they'd want to keep Mitchell there as well. I don't think it makes any sense to think that Mitchell's going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And if he is, it's probably to Miami because they'll get a better deal out of that anyway. So
right. And because there's this idea that, they could still trade Donovan Mitchell and just keep DA because he's a guy you can win now with. He's a guy you can rebuild around. But if I'm looking at the market and the lack of teams that came forward that were bottom feeders that could have given DA a max contract, I think that kind of set his market value and revealed a lot about how he's perceived. I don't think he's a central guy that you build around. I think he is a guy that would make sense to pair with Donovan Mitchell, but not necessarily to build around himself.
Yeah.
So Code asked in the chats, or he didn't ask, but he said he doesn't think that the Nets would get on board with that trade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a fair trade for them, or do you think it's probably their...
I think they could probably, they could try to do better for sure, but like if KD's forcing his way out, you're still getting Cam Johnson, you're getting Malik Beasley, you're getting guys that you can flip, and you're getting 5 first-round picks plus 2 pick swaps. Like, that's not the end of the world. It's better than you can get in a straight-up trade with the Suns. And because the Jazz have so many extra picks now with that Rudy Gobert trade, they might be willing to just toss one in if they can get DA and pair him with Donovan Mitchell. So it's kind of one of those things where it's not the ideal perfect trade for the Nets, but it's not completely unfeasible either.
Let's be clear too. The Nets are getting to a point where the perfect trade may not be able to happen for them. A lot of their options, a lot of the people they thought were suitors have gone and done other things. Supposedly some of these bigger names that people thought would be offered for him just aren't on the table. So at some point, Sean Marks may have to just look at the situation and go, what can I walk away from this feeling like we got enough value, enough where I can say we have the foundation to build moving forward. And 4 or 5 first-round picks and pick swaps is a hell of a haul. That they get, which is very similar to what they gave up to the Celtics to try to build that super team in the mid-2000s. Like, I think he could be okay with that if he doesn't have a lot of other options.
I do want to address something in the chat because Det Nibble said DA is paying the price of being a team player, just like Aaron Holiday and Sticks. The coaching staff has a flaw of underutilizing players. I could see that for Aaron Holiday and maybe even for Sticks, even though he literally didn't show them anything his first 2 years. But like DA, if you pay attention to the way that they use him, they maximize him. Like I've written at length about this before, and it's okay if you haven't read it, but like they put him in pick and rolls where he is most efficient as a player. They put him constantly in positions to succeed, and 81% of his field goals are assisted. Like they got him one of the greatest point guards of all time to make him more efficient. And Devin Booker is a hell of a playmaker himself. So I understand in terms of maybe value to someone else as far as his individual abilities. Maybe he doesn't create as much because he's in that role, but that role is what maximizes him. So I don't agree with that point that they underutilized DA.
Yeah, and
Saul would fight with you if he were here right now, I'm sure.
Thank God he's not for that factor. But look, Sticks wasn't done dirty by the coaching staff. If you want to say Sticks was done dirty by anybody, it was the organization for getting rid of their G League team, having no real development in place for a young guy to come into the system, and then that led to him having no way to grow in those first 2 years when you're playing guys that just were better than him. That's a flaw on the organization. I don't blame Monty for that. Monty's goal is play the guys that are going to get you wins. Now, you could argue Aaron Holiday didn't get that opportunity, and he could have helped them, but I don't see it with Sticks, and I agree with you on DA. They have put him in a situation to maximize a lot of his potential. It's not their fault that he hasn't become a ball handler or being able to create his own shot. They put him in the position with his current skill set to do the most damage he could.
They did. And someone brought up he did fine with Ricky Rubio. He shot 54.6% with Rubio, increased that by about 9 percentage points with Chris Paul. So if you want to play that game, yeah, he did fine with Rubio. He was elite with Chris Paul. And I also see this comment that like he can make his own jump shots and whatnot. He doesn't create those off the dribble, so he still needs to be set up. He's an elite play finisher, but it's not being disingenuous to say that he's assisted on a high percentage of his shots. He's an elite play finisher. I wrote all about this. If you want to read it, you can go to gophnx.com and get the full scope there. But like, he's a play finisher. He's not a play creator, and that's going to limit your value to other teams in trade scenarios like this. It just is.
By the way, I love that you're getting so good at promoting your own work.
I'm not very good at it.
It took you a long time to get here. We had to pump you. Now you're doing it. Congratulations.
I try.
I mean, honestly, though, at the end of the day, regardless of which camp you're in and how you feel about the way that they utilized or didn't utilize DeAndre Ayton, it doesn't address the fact that whatever was going on behind the scenes, whether we believe the rumors or not, trumps all of that. Right. And you could say, well, if they did utilize him more, maybe it wouldn't have been so much frustration to the point where it's boiling over, like the rumors have said, but you can't be certain of that either. So at this point, like if you have to move on from DA, it's probably better for both sides. I still think the Suns should keep DA unless you can get like a Kevin Durant type thing and he has to be included in that. But if it makes better sense for both sides to just part ways, the Suns can continue doing whatever they're doing, and DA has a new opportunity to go and thrive, well, then that's awesome for both of them.
Yeah.
So as long as both of them end up in a better place, whether that's together or separate, I'm happy with it. Okay, I want to look at the odds on DraftKings right now because I want to get your guys' temperature now that we've talked through a lot of the newer reports and rumors that are kind of coming out. So the Suns are still the top team as far as Kevin Durant landing spots go at a minus 200. The Brooklyn Nets are the next top team at a plus 700. How confident, from a dollar perspective, right? How confident are you in Phoenix getting a deal done and getting KD here? How much money would you be willing to put?
Look, Flex from Jersey, our friend, has been right throughout a lot of this process, and I doubted him largely after Kyrie opted back in. He said 99% today.
Wow, okay.
So I'm putting the mortgage payment on that Suns bet there. Don't tell the missus. Please don't. But I'm putting the mortgage payment on the Suns at the minus 200 there to land Kevin Durant. If this is really where Kevin Durant wants to be, all these other things are kind of drying up everywhere else. I'm putting the money on him in Phoenix.
Have you informed the missus yet that you're doing this?
Don't text her. Don't talk to her.
Download,
this
Gerald.
is here.
Right.
I'll inform her when I make that money.
Okay.
No, that I would actually tell my wife, but I'd ask for forgiveness when I did. So,
how are you feeling, Gerald, about all of this? Are you in a positive percentage? Are you kind of lower?
I mean, the Suns are the favorites right now, just based on the fact that he was listed by both Wojnarowski and Chris Haynes as being the preferred destination for KD. That definitely matters in this type of situation when you're talking about a super duper star who can kind of dictate his own terms in that way. And the Suns actually can put together a nice package for him, and they can be flexible and creative. We've talked about this. This is why I didn't get so upset about the Landry Shamet trade and stuff like that, because you need those kind of mid-level salaries to make deals like this work. You need that flexibility to be able to throw different pieces at the wall and see what other teams like. So that could come in handy here. Even if Shamet's not involved, you have a lot of other options to work with. You have all of your draft picks. Like, I feel pretty optimistic about it, about as optimistic as I could be, considering 2 weeks ago, this was kind of like a pie in the sky idea for a lot of us.
can I actually change my answer?
Yes.
Since I'm the reverse jinx,
Yes.
I'm saying put all that money on him going to the Miami Heat and not coming to Phoenix. Put 2 mortgage payments on that. He ain't coming here.
Oh my gosh.
Just gotta keep the basketball gods happy.
There you go.
I don't know. Last night when we did our second show yesterday, I was kind of feeling a little bit nervous. And I think it was just because everything was going so fast and you got all excited when the reports first dropped. And then you had like 7 or 8 hours in the middle and nothing new had really come to the surface. And I was starting to overthink it, I think. I think I'm feeling a lot better today about it than I was yesterday. Like yesterday, if I was willing to put $50 down, today I'm willing to put like $200 down on it. So it's jumped quite a bit. I'm feeling much better.
I would just like, can we please get it done today or tomorrow? I would like Sunday and Monday to recover from what the last 36 hours has been. It would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
It would be. If you guys want to get in on the action. Oh, also championship odds for this upcoming season. The Boston Celtics are currently in the lead on the DraftKings Sportsbook app at a plus 550, but the Suns are tied for second at a plus 600 with the Clippers and the Warriors. So just a little nugget of information for you on that too.
That Malcolm Brogdon trade pushes them up.
Yeah.
Suns are a hypothetical right now. I think if they get KD, they leapfrog the Celtics. But the Celtics have made some nice moves that make them a more solid team. That and they were there in the finals this year, so that makes sense.
That Brogdon trade was highway robbery because you watch them in the finals. They really needed a ball handler to keep their offense organized and keep turnovers down. And they got it with Brogdon, and his market was way lower than expected, even when you factor in the injuries. I guess that's the reason why. But man, teams got to stop giving just spare bits and pieces to the Celtics for nothing. That's what happened with Derek White. They got him at the trade deadline, and he worked out really nice. So Celtics look really good. And looking around the market, this is something that we kind of touched on yesterday, but you really want this Kevin Durant deal to fall into place quickly here, because a lot of the good guys are already gone.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. But first, just a reminder to everyone listening, there are tons of ways for you guys to come out on top with the DraftKings Sportsbook app, including in the Octagon for UFC 276 this upcoming weekend. The DraftKings Sportsbook app is the official sports betting partner of UFC. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code PHNX. Bet $5 on any UFC 276 fighter to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what, that you can then go drop some money on some NBA bets and hopefully make a lot of money. That's code PHNX this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
We thought I had quite the tinfoil hat on earlier, but there is somebody in the chat called Nike Elite who just put in there Sacramento Kings 2022-23 NBA champions.
Listen, I'm just saying, if you make that bet right now and it actually happens, you're going to make a boatload of cash.
He's been saying KD to the Suns like 5 times during the show. So, or KD to the Kings.
Yeah.
They could technically put together like Domantas Sabonis, Harrison Barnes, and Davion Mitchell, I think salary-wise works, but it's the Kings.
Crack is whack. Let's just keep reminding people.
Code just said, I bet Lindsey watches fights with her eyes closed. Excuse you, Code. What do you think? I got a baby stomach over here? No, sir.
Lindsey participates in them. She would rip a man's soul out if she had to.
All right, let's move on.
By the way, teasing. Josh says, give me Alan Big Sauce Williams back. I assume you mean back on the Suns, but he will be coming on the program sometime next week. So Alan will be back with us.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'll be super fun. Also, I wouldn't be mad at that. You get KD over here. You pick up Alan to be a guy that you can rely on off the bench in that center position.
Love him.
Well,
all for it.
And you need that hype man because you lost JaVale. Not a better hype man than Alan Williams.
There is not.
All right, so let's get into this
free agency board sadness.
Like, is it considered in a different multiverse or whatever, where the Suns don't wind up with Kevin Durant? Here's what we got to deal with on the side.
Before we get to the really sad, like, here's the scraps that might have to be picked through, can I ask one other KD question or DA more specifically? But the Indiana Pacers have cleared a lot of cap space, supposedly enough for a max offer.
Yes.
Do you think they play into this some way?
They can. I'm sure that they would be willing to at least make some phone calls and see if there's any nibbles on the line.
They could very well, and that would be a huge fly in the ointment, because that kind of effectively rules out 3-team trades for you, because DA would be going to that third team. We've talked about the Hawks yesterday with that 3-team deal, the Jazz, if they're interested in DA, the Raptors were another one, although with some of their moves, it's a little dicier to see. Man, if they just threw a max offer sheet at DA, it would totally wreck.
But couldn't you discuss a 3-team at that point?
You could.
Because
you could.
I would imagine Miles Turner might fit that young guy that the Nets are looking for, potentially.
Right. So I actually did come up with a trade for this. I had come up with one last night, and then they traded Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics, so that kind of wrecked it because I had Brogdon going to the Nets in that 3-team deal. But it still works if you replace Brogdon with Buddy Hield. So in this trade, the Suns would be getting Kevin Durant and Miles Turner. The Nets would be getting Jay Crowder, Buddy Hield, Mikal Bridges, and a bunch of picks from the Suns, 3 in this case, and pick swaps. And then the Pacers would be getting DeAndre Ayton, Cam Payne, Day'Ron Sharpe, and a first rounder from the Suns.
So they could play in a role in here.
Right. So it could, I mean, but they could also just throw an offer sheet, at which point you're really in trouble if you're the Suns, because what do you do? Like, if you match it, then you can't trade him till December. And if you don't match it, then you are letting him walk for basically nothing.
Well, at this point, I imagine James Jones has talked to DA and said, please don't sign anything until we can have a discussion.
It's possible.
Now you're depending on how upset is he with
the question is how angry did you make him, or how angry has he become, whichever way you want to say it, and then how petty is he going to be if he is that angry? Because we've seen some very disgruntled former Suns over the past years. So
honestly, though, what's really the difference between Indiana and Utah? Like, at this point, one would. They're about the same toss up for me if I'm DA.
It's the Utah of the Midwest.
I'm like, oh well,
maybe one's closer to like Miami or something.
At least Utah has nicer mountains. Is a little shorter. Indiana's got corn. Like, I don't know.
I personally think if you're DA, maybe you'd rather play on the Pacers. Like, playing with Donovan Mitchell. Okay, yes, I get that. That trumps all, maybe, but like. The Pacers have a decent young core. If you look at Tyrese Halliburton, Chris Duarte, Benedict Mathurin, who they just drafted, maybe you want to be a part of a young team.
Well, and if you go to the Pacers too, there's more, because if you're going to Utah and Donovan's staying there, it's Donovan's team, right?
Right.
If DA really wants to be that guy, the Pacers might be a little bit of a better option for him to potentially get that.
Yeah, but you got to be that guy in Indiana. I mean, I guess he plays video games a lot, so he doesn't have to worry about going out in the city.
Right.
So yeah, maybe that is a benefit.
Would you rather be that guy in Indiana or that other guy in Utah?
I'd rather be that other guy in Utah, because it worked out pretty good for, Karl Malone and John Stockton for one or the other to be the other guy in Utah. But either way, I'm like, he was probably thinking, oh, maybe there's some big cities I could go to, and Indiana and Utah are on the menu now.
Personally, I'd rather be like the third or fourth guy in Phoenix, but that's just me.
Well, same here, but we're operating in a world where that's not what he's thinking, I have a feeling.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at all the people who are still on the board, all the people we've missed out on, starting with the people that the Suns have lost from last season. Of course, JaVale McGee, he got a 3-year, $21 million contract with the Dallas Mavericks. Aaron Holiday recently got picked up by, who was it?
The Atlanta Hawks.
Atlanta, that's right.
Yes. And his brother got traded there, too.
Yes,
right,
Justin
which is kind of cool for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If it lasts.
I really wouldn't have wanted to play with my sibling on the same team growing up. So I don't know. I might want my own life, but some siblings are different.
I just hope Aaron Holiday gets a shot, to be honest. I know we've talked about this plenty of times on this podcast, but that is one thing, and a lot of people in the comments were bringing it up earlier on in the show, just that they wish that he would have at least gotten a shot here.
Well, the best place to get a shot is where Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are already ahead you on the depth chart.
That's tough.
Actually, you know where the best place to get a shot is?
Oh, look at that transition.
Well done, Lindsey.
You can find out for yourself at azhealth.gov/find-vaccine. That's right. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Once again, visit azhealth.gov/find-vaccine for a location near you. Thanks, guys. You set me up for that one very nicely.
Can I get the tinfoil hat back? Because a COVID shot is what kind of started, or lack thereof, is what kind of started all this for us here.
Oh, boy. Let's not go down that rabbit hole just yet.
By the way, yes, I know the Holiday brothers played together in Indiana, but one time would be enough for me if I had to be on the same team as my
Espo, hello in the chat, said, some people like their siblings. LOL.
I've yet to meet one.
All right. So now let's take a look at players the Suns have lost out on in free agency thus far.
Squint.
I know. Is this graphic?
Or no, we're gonna look at the people that are still available.
Oh, I see. My bad. I read your.
We didn't have enough room on the screen to have everybody that they've missed out on already.
Yeah, because
it's essentially a lot.
It's essentially go read Gerald's list of players that the Suns could afford.
And then cross off 70%.
They're all gone.
I see dead people on that list. It's just nobody left.
I woke up depressed when I saw the Ricky Rubio news.
I know.
That was one of my top tier targets in my book.
Ricky would have been fun.
And he was totally affordable too. He's only getting like $6 million a year. Well, that one hurts.
Let's start off with the point guards then, since you're talking about Ricky Rubio. This list continues to get smaller, even since the last time we put it together. Raul Neto is gone, but the guys left. Colin Sexton probably out of the Suns' price range. Dennis Schroeder wouldn't want him here anyways. Dante DiVincenzo, rumored to be of interest to the Suns. Goran Dragic, I like him. I don't know if he'd come back to the Valley. My guess is he's destined for Dallas. Isaiah Thomas, thanks but no thanks. Been there, done that. Don't need it again. DJ Augustine, Thomas Satoransky.
He actually signed with Barcelona, so
take him off the list.
He's out.
Rajon Rondo and Facu Campazzo. And after that Denver series, you can wipe him off the list for me as well.
Yeah, that's not pretty. It's pretty much just, for me, the only ones that would make sense at this point are Dennis Schroeder and Goran Dragic from that particular group. Because, man, the Rubio one hurts and the Gary Payton one, he did get paid with the Blazers, so good for him. That was out of the Suns' price range.
I think that one, though, we had mentioned was kind of a pie in the sky, thinking that he would likely get more money elsewhere, but in the event that maybe we could snag him for cheap, he would have been a great get for sure.
That's why the Clarkson name and a potential DA sign-in trade, making that work somehow, is intriguing to me. Because he's a guy that has the potential to provide you with that scoring from a guard spot off the bench.
He does, and he's a guy who definitely can create his own shot. Clarkson gives and Clarkson takes away. Like that's so kind of his
campaign.
Yes, but like with less of a conscience on his shot chart. Gotcha. Like he gets into heaters and he will just, like, you think Devin Booker in 2-for-1 situations is bad. Jordan Clarkson's entire life is a 2-for-1 Devin Booker situation. Like that's how he plays all the time.
What is the obsession with Kemba?
I was going to say a lot of people in the chats are bringing up Kemba as a potential.
The guy couldn't crack the rotation in his last 2 spots.
Right. I think Kemba's best days are behind him. I would rather go with Clarkson just because he's volatile, but he will have those games where he just goes off and hits everything. So I don't know. Kemba's maybe as like a third guard if you were at a last resort, but if we're looking for campaign upgrades, Kemba's not it.
I like that R in the chat says Ife is our savior.
We're gonna be watching him very intently in summer league. Let's just say that.
Yes.
We may be to that point if this stretches on very much longer.
We might in the ball handling department at least.
We have a graphic of the best centers that are left on the board.
Okay.
Yes. Let's take a peek.
It is another poo-poo platter. All right. DeAndre Ayton, obviously the best.
Yes.
Montreal Harris has a drug charge against him, so not exactly the greatest. DeMarcus Cousins is DeMarcus Cousins. Tristan Thompson, who Devin Booker allegedly punched in the face, probably doesn't work out real well.
No.
Bismack Biyombo, hey, we can help him build more churches, more hospitals, as you said. And he met the Pope, so maybe there's some luck there as well with him. Thomas Bryant, Serge Ibaka, Georgie Deng, Dwight Howard, Hassan Whiteside, and LaMarcus Aldridge, which LaMarcus Aldridge, hey, you could wind up getting the guy you went after hard in 2015.
Just 6 years delayed or whatever it was, 4 or 5 or 8 years. Look, from that list, like Montrezl Harrell is the best non-DA player, but if you're starting him at center, you're having a ton of defensive issues. Boogie and Thompson both kind of washed up at this point. Biyombo, bring him back absolutely as a backup or third string guy. He's great in that role. I like Thomas Bryant and Serge Ibaka probably best out of that list, but Gorgui Dieng isn't that bad either. But again, if you're having to start any of those three, you're really banking on still having Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, and Kevin Durant as your other starting five.
Can we scroll back up to the one that was talking about what Gambo just said on air? Michael Carroll said, Gambo just said on air, if the Suns get the return from Utah, which he's speculating is 2 picks and Bogdanovich, this is what a Brooklyn trade would look like for KD. Payne, Shamet, Craig, Crowder, Saric, 6 first-round picks and 3 swaps. If that is the deal that gets done,
dude,
holy hell.
Okay, if they find a way to hold on to both Mikal and Cam Johnson, that would be absolute insanity.
I mean, you've basically gutted your bench at that point.
Who cares?
But that is a steal.
That is. Bogdanovich's contract is only for $19 million, and they'd be signing DA for probably the max, which would be $30. So I think that they would have to include something else. But
how much cap space did they clear, though?
The Jazz?
Yeah. Have they cleared any with some of their moves?
It's not even about the cap space as much as what you are legally allowed to take. I guess if they have a ton of cap space, maybe, but they're over the cap as it is right now.
So supposedly Gambo had Cam in the deal too.
Okay.
Cam was in the deal too. So
okay. Yeah.
Still, though, that's a hell of a deal. And some of our other friends online that know the cap are saying the Bogdanovich thing doesn't fully work. I'm sure there's ways to start to look at it and figure out how to make the math. There's a few other players work and everything, but wow. We're getting to the point where we're starting to hear that asking price drop significantly from the Nets side, and that the picks become such a big part of things, and that's quite intriguing to me.
Keeping Mikal out of it would be insanity.
It would be so great.
Keeping Cam would be like, we need to investigate the Nets and the Jazz for tampering because apparently they want the Suns to win the title.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
That's all I had.
My brain stalled. Don't worry. Too much going on in the chat where I'm trying to go. Yeah. Does this work? How does that work?
You know what? There's just a lot going on in general right now around all of this. I just hope that at some point in time here in the near future, we have a resolution to all of this so that we can start celebrating or going through the next handful of weeks with all the stages of grief once again. Yeah. Whichever one it is, I just would like to get to that point sooner than later. Yeah. But I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling okay. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I like the fact that the price for the Nets for KD is starting to drop like Bitcoin right now. I'm like, hey, all right. Not on the Bitcoin part. I feel sorry for people losing their money, but on the Suns getting a better value, hell yeah, I'm in. Let's do this.
Do you honestly think, though, the Nets would accept something like that?
Yes.
At this point?
If you're getting that many first-round picks, you could sell anything.
You think that they would be able to just say yes for some picks?
Yes, because that also opens up their ability to make other deals with that capital that they got. I think so.
I honestly have no idea, but I do think as soon as you make that Kevin Durant trade, if you are not getting a starting caliber center back, you have to know already who you're going to target, what you're going to offer them, and have that offer out the door, because losing Kevon Looney this morning, that one hurt, because that was probably the last starting caliber big that you could reasonably maybe get on the mid-level. He obviously got, I think, about $8 or $9 million per year from the Warriors. That one hurts a little bit if you're not getting a starting caliber center back.
Say it with me. Frank the Tank.
Oh, God.
Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank. Kaminsky Cove.
Reopening for what, the third time now?
Hey, I'll keep opening that bad boy as long as Frank comes back.
I'm on board.
And now we have a connection to Frank. We might have him on the show this summer. So.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
I have to bring this up. I'm seeing it in the chat right now, and it was one of the funniest things I saw on the internet yesterday. Did you guys see the Kevin
Durant?
Yes.
Yeah.
With Dragon Bender's jersey? Like, poor Dragon Bender taking strays there, but it was so funny.
That won the internet yesterday.
It was really clever. Whoever did that, like, kudos to you. That was very clever.
Well, I tweeted out the list of guys who were 35 in franchise history and took a lot of heat for my beloved, saying that KD would automatically be the best ever. And I took a lot of heat for turning my back on my beloved Dragon Bender. But I said, logic wins out here. Joe Klein, maybe you could make that argument, but I got to say Bender moves down on the list. So
I think that's fair.
It's okay, but we understand. Just a reminder that if KD does come to Phoenix, you guys have a heck of a lot more to celebrate than just hopefully some really good basketball and a great upcoming season. You also get to celebrate with some Four Peaks beer, courtesy of Saul Bookman, who promised to buy everyone around at the Four Peaks Brewery. Also want to remind you that our PHNX Coyotes crew is going to have a draft day live party July 7th, so that's next week, at 4 p.m. at Four Peaks 8th Street Pub. You must be 21 or older to enjoy Four Peaks beer, but anybody can go to the brewery and hang out, have some food, enjoy the draft with our Coyotes crew. We just want to remind you that if you do indulge in some Four Peaks, that you enjoy responsibly.
And if you're not a Coyotes guy, but you want to come out and hang out with me, I'll be out at that draft party all night. So come by and say hi, and we can celebrate Kevin Durant if it's happened by next Thursday.
I will tell you, if you do head out to their brewery, you got to get the chicken strips and French fries. I know you're like, chicken strips, French fries, you get those anywhere, but at Four Peaks, they're so good.
Oh,
they're like real crispy, and then the Chipotle Ranch is super bomb there too.
Chicken strips really can be mid.
Yeah, they totally can.
Not at Four Peaks. Those are spectacular.
They're even really good. Like late, I took some to go, and I wasn't able to get to it for a few hours, and I was going to put them in the air fryer to get them crispy again, and then I just got too lazy and didn't do it, and they were still good. So that says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think we need to include that secret recipe they have for those in the Kevin Durant deal. Maybe that gets it done. That's how good they are.
There you go. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. We're going to kind of be on call, if you will, over this weekend, just in case something pops off. We want to be here to either celebrate with you or cry with you, whichever one.
We're basically doctors. We've got our pagers on. We're ready for... Yeah, that's right. Pagers. I said it. We've got them on. We're ready for whatever's coming in the next 36, 48 hours. We'll be here for
deliver KD into the world.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Lord. But yeah, so just keep an eye out on our Twitter. The show is at PHNX_Suns. You can also turn on notifications if you are in the chat right now watching on YouTube. You can turn on notifications for that so that you know whenever we're live. But just keep an eye out, because I'm sure you'll hear all the news break on Twitter, and just know that we'll probably be there as soon as we possibly can to talk about it with you guys. But until that happens, you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsey Smith AZ. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
For those of you wondering, in the starting lineup, Devin Booker would be called last. I just confirmed it. Ahoy, hoy!
Tell the Phoenix Metro, Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B, always on the job.